Welcome into Monday Mornings with Matt and Kevin here on the Catholic Family Podcast. These two will debate real-life issues from a Catholic perspective every Monday at 9 Eastern. Topics that come up around the dinner table will be given the truth treatment with no punches held and no falsehood left standing. Sit back, relax, grab your cup of coffee, and enjoy the show. Here are your hosts, Matt and Kevin.
Well, a happy Monday morning to you all, and of course to my co-host Matt. Matt's good to see you as always. Good to talk to you all out there. Even though, again, we're recording on a Sunday, we're publishing on a Monday. Hoping you all are enjoying your work days or your days at home with the children, which is very much a work day. I had the kids over the weekend, Matt, and I tell you, I definitely appreciate it. And we had fun. We did some bike trips and we did a bunch of stuff. My wife had some appointments. She doesn't usually leave the kids like ever. And so I had them, but it was fun. We did a lot of fun stuff, but man, I tell you though, after a couple of days, I was like, man, I'm pretty wasted.
I need a wife.
Oh, I'm done. Yeah.
Need my wife.
Where are you? Come to
Help.
your job. Yeah. And that's for 2 days. It's like, mothers never get vacation, because when they go on vacation, they take their kids with them. So, definitely, props to them. I definitely appreciate them, especially even more after the weekend. But
did you do things with the kids that would make your wife nervous? Hang them upside down off the roof of the
sometimes
house?
I'd say sometimes, not quite that. I mean, sometimes there's certainly stuff that I do that I think she's a little leery of, but oftentimes actually she's a little more dangerous than I am. Actually, I think really? I'm actually pretty careful. Yeah, I'm a pretty safe guy. Yeah, I mean, we went on a bike trip. And I guess there are a couple places that are, a little bit treacherous. They sit in the back in like a little trailer behind, but it's very, it's very safe, very Swedish, and it's awesome. It's really pretty cool. You'd have to see it. It's hard to describe, but it's a really cool engineered piece of machinery that the kids sit in, you buckle them in, they wear their helmets, but they just ride behind you on your bike.
Kind of like a tricycle looking thing?
No. So they're like on think of like a three-wheeled wagon that attaches to your bike.
Oh, all right. Oh, yeah. Oh, I see.
Yeah,
okay,
it's pretty cool.
All right, like a horse pulling a carriage.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, exactly. But fast. Yeah, exactly. And so you're going 50 kilometers an hour. I mean, it's going pretty quick sometimes.
Kilometers per hour, Kev.
I know. I have.
What?
I live in Germany, Matt.
What? How fast is that really? What's the real speed on that? You don't think like that now, do you?
30 miles per hour, maybe.
I don't know anymore.
I do.
Really?
I've been here 8 years, man.
Your brain is switched.
I do. I totally think in kilometers.
Do you use inches at all, or is that done too?
No.
Really?
I use sometimes. I cook. I bake in the non-metric system, so in the U.S. system, but otherwise, almost only metric stuff.
I can't figure it out, and I don't think I ever will figure it out.
It is.
I know 0 Celsius. That's about the height of all that I can.
Which makes a lot more than 30. It makes a lot more sense than 32. Yeah, there's a lot of these things you start looking into it and using it. It's like this is actually better.
It works,
but I know people would argue that, but honestly, I think it's usually people who've never used both. If you've used both, fine. If you like the other one better, but you can't really argue against the metric system. If
you're one of those people that, like, if I said to you it's 16 degrees Celsius outside, you know what that means. There are a lot of people who like for right me, now, I have no idea what that.
Right now, it's about 16 degrees Celsius right now.
Which is what Fahrenheit would you think?
58.
So you're like a human calculator.
58. That's purely a guess.
Who needs Google Translate?
Exactly. Just ask Kevin. Yeah, that needs to be. Yeah, exactly. It needs to be a show. We need to do a show on that. Just ask
Kevin.
He
knows.
No, actually, I don't know. I would guess that's around. Yeah, I mean, it's cool. It's there's a bit of a breeze. It's a bit chilly. I mean, think of 20 degrees Celsius is about 70 degrees Fahrenheit.
So base it off that. All right, that gives me a little.
So 16's cooler. It's got a bit of a breeze. It's about what it is right now. So that's
2070,
58, 56, something like that. Pretty chilly, but not cold at all. Yeah.
All right, maybe I'll learn it one day.
Someday.
They always threaten to implement it here, and it just doesn't.
The British.
Yeah.
Say, we will bomb you. You will be part of the British Empire. So actually, the British they actually do the same. They also actually do miles and feet and stuff too, I think.
Oh, I did not know. No, they really?
Yeah, they do. If you read
in England,
read Tolkien, he also talks
they don't
in
use
miles and feet. I'm not sure, but miles for sure. Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Maybe we should just.
It's more of the mainland Europe.
This is so weird, and I don't know why I'm thinking about it, but I this is probably the most random comment I've ever made here. Did you know that like Pocahontas and Shakespeare like met each other or something like that?
What?
Who would Pocahontas?
I'm kidding.
You know. Oh.
I'm kidding. No. Yeah,
I don't know why I thought of that.
That's actually okay. That's interesting. Wow, that is.
I don't know. I don't know.
They could have at least.
Huh, that's the one random fact. You know how you know about the Waker-uppers? That's the one thing that I somehow recall. And somebody commented in the chat who woke up the Waker-uppers. I mean, that's
the Waker-uppers.
Those must be the guys. No, those are the guys who have insomnia. They don't.
Yeah, sleep. Exactly.
So if you were an insomniac, we're gonna hire you as a Waker-upper.
Amen to that.
And how did they bang on the door? Did they ring a pot?
No, they like knocked. I think they had like a big stick. They knocked on the windows.
Get up!
Yeah, right. Exactly. Hey. It was funny when I was growing up. My brother was this. He's a Marine. He was a Marine for 10 years, and now he's he's in business now. But when we were kids, he was he was always this go getter. Kind of insane, pretty much. And he had an alarm clock that was like this. It's hard to even describe, but it was like this insane alarm clock that would buzz and it would like shake and it would like yeah, exactly. It would blare, but it was a guy like screaming at you and horns going off and sirens like hey, you get up, get out of bed, you stupid. Yeah, it was it's like insulting you, and it was pretty.
I don't need that anymore, but there was a time where I needed that.
Yeah,
somebody invented an alarm clock that when it goes off, it starts to tilt your bed, so you literally have to fall out of bed. I saw that. It's an actual thing.
That okay, I like that.
Would you have ever needed that? Or no?
Oh yeah, definitely. My younger years, I could have been kicked out of bed. Yeah,
I don't sleep like I used to. I used to be able to go to bed, fall right to sleep, and then just straight through. Like now, it's like every night is like, I don't know. I need.
Getting up, walking to the bathroom, man, you're like a middle-aged woman.
I know. Speaking of, Pat Sajak retired.
I just saw that.
41 years.
I texted my family. We have a family chat, on WhatsApp or Signal or whatever.
Yeah.
I was like, hey guys, we were talking about other stuff, and I just texted. I was like, Pat Sajak just retired. And I had several people comment. It's like, that's random. It's like, that's a big deal. The dude's been around since way before I was born.
Well, somebody commented on this, and I thought that was very accurate because there's this one woman. Somebody posted a video of it, and she's literally having like a breakdown watching the retirement of Pat Sajak on Wheel of Fortune. And I was like, look at this lady have like an absolute meltdown over here, like an absolute having a traumatic experience. But people made a good point, and it was like what a lot of maybe people who are younger don't get is like it brings back memories of much older generations. And I thought back and I was like, no, that's true. My grandparents who have passed for over a decade now, I could see that show on in the corner of their house, and you could just see like the memories of that. So you connect those things, like generations that have all passed. You watch Pat Sajak together. So
and he's also a conservative guy, a guy actually
very anti-Trump, I believe.
Was he anti?
I believe, yes. They said
I don't know, but he was definitely a guy who was like, hey, actors and people, just shut up, just stop talking, stop acting like
you know anything. Yes.
He was actually pretty. So I don't know if he's conservative, but he was a guy who seemed to have some common sense. It's like you had all these actors doing dances and songs. It's like, hey, listen to us. I'm going to tell you who you should vote for. I'm an actor, so listen to me.
So
Pat Sajak's
like the Taylor Swift effect. People
love exactly. Pat Sajak's like,
Taylor Swift.
Shut up. I mean, come on. We're a bunch of actors and show hosts. I mean, where are we going to tell people?
People tune into these things to not see politics.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear about who did what, said what. Let me watch Wheel of Fortune. And then
on sports, man. I mean, it's funny. We were watching the Champions League final. So that's soccer for those Americans who don't know. And so I was watching that with my father-in-law, and I don't watch a lot of soccer, to be honest. I just can't. I like it. I'm going to watch the European Championship is coming up starting on Friday, and I like it. I like watching that because the international intrigue I think is pretty fun. That's pretty cool. So I watch that quite a lot, but usually I don't really watch anything but the biggest games. So we were watching the biggest game of the year outside of the international games, and they I think 3 or 4 times in the pregame and in the halftime, they brought up Ukraine and they brought up other political issues. And my father-in-law is just like, this is why I don't watch this anymore. And he was a huge soccer fan, huge. And he's like, I can't watch it anymore. I can't watch it. It's just full of this trash where they're just trying to push their agenda. It's just like, shut up. We are playing a stupid game with a ball that people enjoy, and that's simple and it's fun and it's entertaining. And I think we're both sports fans. I'm a big sports fan. We're going to talk about that actually in our first segment after this long opening.
Discourse.
But we're big sports fans, and I think sports has its place. I think it can be detrimental, of course, if you're missing your things with your family or your faith or mass. Of course, I mean, so that goes. I think that should go without saying. But I like sports. And I don't think they're a negative. But if you have sports, which should be this pure area of just entertainment, being bombarded by this ridiculous messaging, it's just
kneeling for the anthem. That seems to have stopped, but that the end zones in football painted a whatever color that they may want to project.
Black Lives Matter. It's infected. No crap, man. They do matter. You know what? So does everyone else. And you know what was crazy when you said, yeah, Black lives do matter. And all lives matter. You racist pig. You racist. Yeah. Wait, what? it's but that's actually, it's a great segue into our first topic. And that
beautiful. Like we planned that. You and I just read a script. That was actually scripted.
Good. We are so good at this.
Oh, that was typed up in Microsoft Word.
Talking about Caitlyn Clark. And she, for those of you who are not sports fans.
She's Italian.
Yeah. She looks Italian. She totally looks.
I mean, that last name has to have been abbreviated from Clarkaroni or something.
Yeah, exactly. Like Clarkarini. Yeah, exactly. No, yeah, probably. Yeah, exactly. No, but she's a rookie women's basketball player, and it's incredible that Matt and I are talking about her. Yeah, she is. She is. I mean, I think we've actually mentioned her on shows before. Funny enough, I have
our secretary.
Matt, I have to say this every time I talk about. Yeah, exactly. Our production staff. When I talk about women's basketball, there's this great quote from the series The Office, and one of the characters is like, I just don't get the issue. The NBA, the WNBA, what's the problem? I like sports and I like jokes. Anyway, so I always have to bring that up.
Good week, everyone.
It's a great joke, but it's actually incredible what Caitlyn Clark has done. She's a young girl from Iowa. She played in Iowa. Actually, I don't know where she's from originally, but she played her basketball in Iowa.
In that area. And
she was a phenom. She scored the most points of all time in all college basketball through men and women. Take that as you will. She's, for what she does, she is the best ever through college, her college time, which is unquestionable. She's great. She's a great shooter. I mean, Matt and I could play 2-on-1 against her, and she would score 100 to 10, maybe we'd score 10, Matt. I think we could score 10. I think
we could probably get 10.
So she's a great basketball player, and I respect that. I respect these other women who can do it. I think it gets to be silly when you get into the politics of we don't get paid as much. Well, yeah, because you're not as entertaining. That's just the market for it. So, but it's interesting. So Matt, I don't know if did you want to describe exactly what's going on, or should I with Caitlyn?
Well, did you want to talk about the viewership first? I mean, the numbers. Like you have this stat that, and then I could talk about the.
Was it double? She's
so it was double? Let's see here. We had it. It was so so according to Outkick, WNBA games with Clark playing have an average of 1.1 million viewers. Without her, about 400,000 viewers. I don't know if you saw this, Kev, but the game the other day, the Indiana Fever, that's her team, the Indiana Fever, were playing whoever, and the demand for tickets were so great that they had to move the arena. I don't know if you saw this, but they sold out immediately, and there was such a demand for more that they had to actually switch where the game was played to an arena. I believe, it could be wrong, but to an arena that doesn't house basketball games or something like that. So they actually had to make room for people who wanted to go pay and watch her play. So there is that, but the main topic that has been circulating the news lately is the Olympics. And she was snubbed off the roster, and that has really caused a lot of firestorm. She is not on the Olympic team. I kind of see. I mean, there's been a lot of things going on with her that have really stirred the pot. People are seemingly attacking her physically on the court with no apparent reason. I don't know if you saw this clip. Forget the opposing player, but called her a curse word. I'm sure you can guess which one based on the context of all this, and then went up to her and just shoved her and like just put with absolutely no gameplay wasn't even
Whistle was
happening.
blown.
So
Yeah,
she's
exactly.
she's targeted for the obvious reason, in my opinion, that first, she's talented, she's very, very good. So people are going to be like, hey, she's a target. She got a target on her back, which is cool. That's sportsmanship quality. You see somebody who's good and you have that competitive nature about you. It's like, let me go up one-on-one against him. Let me play with him. I want to compete against him. I want to show you up. I get that. But it's crossed a line of an actual like trying to hurt her, calling her all these names with no rhyme or reason other than probably she's a lot of what the WNBA doesn't like.
So I'm sorry, I got to interrupt because I have a solution. All right. So I heard a commentator say that her team needs to get an enforcer, right? They need to get someone who's going to just literally, all they do is have her back. And if someone pushes her, they come in and, have her back. They literally just bonk, the other person. She's not huge. So Matt, here we go. So we know WNBA is very woke, and we know that women can be men. So why not? I'm just giving you an idea. Why not put a wig on Shaquille O'Neal for a season? Shaquille O'Neal, go in there and be Shaquille O'Neal. Shaquille O'Neal, right? Shaquille.
There's no rule against this that I'm aware of.
And then say that he's a woman and he can go be the enforcer for Caitlyn Clark. I think it's a pretty cool idea. But anyway, to be serious, I think it's actually pretty interesting.
So I think one of the probably it's personal outside of talent, I believe. And from what and I'm not an expert in the WNBA, but no, not only that, but she's married to a man, which is actually very.
I didn't know that she's married. Oh,
yes,
I didn't even know that.
And I believe she's trying to keep herself private as an individual, but I don't want to spread false information. But from what I'm gathering a bit from just reading different sources, is that she's not so woke on this LGBT agenda, and players know that a lot of these women here have girlfriends and wives and whatever else. So I think they see her not only as somebody who's, I think it's talent aside, they see her as somebody who does not approve of their lifestyle. And I think that's what's put the target on her back more than anything. She's straight, she's white, she's married to a man, and she, from what I gather, now this isn't, I don't know this for sure, so I just want to put that out there, but from what I'm gathering from reading different things, is that she's not so woke on this whole agenda thing for the month of June. So I think that has made her really an enemy of a lot of players, because they take that personal. You don't accept who I am. You don't, embrace my choice and all of that. And I think that is what's really made her an enemy of a lot of them.
Because it's a microcosm of the world, right? It's a microcosm. Right. It's really showing us. It's like, how many of us, Matt, I'm sure you can speak for it, being a white, straight Catholic guy, that you really do actually have disadvantages in the world. It's crazy. And I'm not saying like, well, we can't succeed and we need no, but actually you actually don't get, like, say, grants from the government that the other people get. We actually do have a harder path to be educated, to get loans from the government. That is a fact. Anyone who wants to look it up, go ahead. I've done it. I'm sure Matt's done it.
So
and you do not get as much money. So being a straight, as you say, a straight white woman who is the best, she comes in as a rookie. She's got to be 21, 22 years old.
Yeah,
she's probably the best 22. In the league, and everyone hates it. And honestly, I love it. And I want to say real quickly, so this is one of my biggest opinions on this, is that whoever has taken over the WNBA marketing is genius. They have done a brilliant, brilliant job of making her, first of all, making her known, and second of all, making her the villain. Because Matt, you and I both know we grew up at the very end of the Michael Jordan era. And Michael Jordan, greatest of all time, not even close. I mean, LeBron, okay, he's in the ballpark, but Jordan's the best.
Agree. Yeah,
Jordan's the best. And so, but he was the villain, man. He was the villain. I remember as a kid being like, oh, Jordan.
You loved him or hated him. There was no in between.
I respected him as a kid. I respected him. He was the best, but I didn't love him. He was the bad guy. He was the villain. And that's what the WNBA, I think, is really pushing. And it's really smart. And honestly, Clark she's up for it, man. I've watched some of her interviews, and she's tough, and she is getting
tough.
decked on the court, but she's good, man. She is a good ball player.
I found here former WNBA superstar Candace Wiggins claimed that I don't care what the numbers state, 98% of this league are lesbians. And then she said, now because apparently the quote unquote official stats or whatever are like almost 40%, so 38% ish or so.
That's crazy anyway. Jeez.
But yeah, she says it's more like 98%, having known a lot of these women. And this is from 2017. And she said, I personally suffered from bullying in the sport due to being heterosexual. Now, if you're being bullied just for being heterosexual, imagine if you're heterosexual in this game and you oppose.
Yeah.
And you oppose their... People are vile. People are violent.
I literally just came up with something that's probably going to get us banned from YouTube.
Again.
Probably again. But tell me this doesn't make sense. This actually, so 40% of the women, if that's what they're saying, that's insane. That's something's wrong, because women are not naturally attracted to women. Period. End of story. Shut up. I don't want to hear it from all of you.
48%. Yeah.
No, 40. Yeah, that's insane. So, all right. So hear me out. And I am not prepared for this, but this actually makes a lot of sense. These women. Sure. So if you're in soccer, football, baseball, basketball, you're taking performance enhancing drugs, right? Almost everyone. I don't care. It's not just Barry Bonds. Everybody's doing it. Mostly, at least. Let's say 90%. Many people are doing some sort of performance enhancing drugs. Now, what if the women's basketball players are taking some form of HGH, which is human growth hormone, which has a huge amount of testosterone? They are literally changing the biology in their body by what they're putting into the body, and that actually impacts their brain. So they're actually they're going crazy. So you're putting these things into your body, and you can't, your hormones and all these things are changing. Why do you look at Brittany Griner? I don't know if you know about her story. She goes to Russia. Did you just see that? I just saw that too. So we'll talk. Yeah, adult content warning. Anyway, so she, first of all, a couple years ago, she went to Russia and just went into Russia with marijuana and got thrown in prison and actually had to be bought back by the U.S. So she's a moron. That's objective. She's an idiot. And we just saw yesterday, I just saw this too. Well, let's just say, again, adult content warning. I'll be soft. I'll be soft on this. She's playing pool basketball without a shirt on. And
there's nothing there.
If you didn't know she's a she, you wouldn't know she's a she. Let's just say that. So she has abused her body.
Have you heard her speak?
Yeah, she sounds like a dude. She's always looked like a guy, but Matt, it's because she's. I mean, she. I guarantee you, she's on these.
Sorry,
hormones.
I cut you off. You were on a point here, and
she's on these hormones that are making her freaking crazy. That they're making them crazy, and they're making them quote unquote attracted to other women because they don't. I guarantee their brains are an absolute mess, and their hormones absolutely have no clue. I guarantee you, Matt, that they're. Let's just say there are cycles and all these different things. I bet you could probably research this. I bet you they're absolutely bonkers crazy. Nothing makes sense. It all is bonkers. Nothing's working, and it's because of what they're putting into their body. And that's, talk about tragedy. So I certainly hope that someone like Caitlyn Clark, who maybe, just maybe, which we do see every now and then, is a true, absolute talent, an absolute someone who actually has the God-given talent to be better than everyone else on earth at a certain sport. And then happens. Maybe it's Jordan. Maybe it's Lou Gehrig. Maybe it's Ted Williams. People who can really say, they're the best, and they're the best for the next 20, 30 years because of what God gave them. Maybe that's Caitlyn Clark. Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe she's also taking this stuff, and maybe she'll dump her husband and go find a wife. I mean, from what we're seeing, that seems pretty likely. But I certainly hope, that's part of why I'm rooting for her, because she seems like someone who has the spirit, the fire, and just the actual talent. She's the Steph Curry. She's someone she doesn't look like she's been like Steph Curry. Anyone who watches basketball, the dude's tiny. Like, he's not big. Like he can just shoot. He has a shooting talent that no one in the history of mankind has had and probably will ever have. He can just he can just shoot the basketball in the hoop better than anyone, by the way. Ever. He is. Yeah, he's 6'4",
He's
6'5".
6'2".
Is he
But
6'2"? Only
and he looks tiny. He looks so
he's not that.
tiny.
He's not a big. So you can
I'm
tell
6.
that's not a guy who's pumping himself full of drugs. Not
Yeah,
much,
he's
at
not a big
least.
guy.
Adderall or something, sure, but he's not HGH. And I think Caitlyn Clark's the same. She's not huge. How big is? Can you look that up? How big is Caitlyn Clark? I mean,
Yeah.
she's not tiny, but I don't think she's one of these Brittany Griner types. Who I think Brittany Griner is 6'7", 6'8". So she's for
6'7".
a girl.
Caitlin Clark is 6 feet even.
She's 6 foot.
Or for you Germans, 1.83 meters.
Yeah, she's not that big. And she doesn't look that huge. She just has a wonderfully beautiful shot. She has a talent that is just given to her.
150 pounds. So 6 foot,
Yeah,
150.
she's not that big. She's not that big.
No,
And that's what I think is
well,
beautiful.
tall,
It's
but
like, and honestly, truly, if
she's
she
pretty
was
feminine.
and if she was a black girl, I don't care. That's fine. I have the race literally doesn't matter to me. It doesn't. I don't care. I am a big fan of black girls, of black guys. I mean, I don't care. I mean, when we're talking about, if you're talking about my culture, my Catholic culture, yeah, there are much more white people. I like the Western race. I have zero problem with black people. I tell you, I've talked with some priests in Africa, and they're better than pretty much any white person I've ever met. So, it's certainly not about race, but just the fact that she seems to be someone who has that natural talent. And I love that. So I hope she goes and just tears the league up. Oh, and she is so far. And her team's terrible. So she came into the worst team in the league. They're terrible. And she was the first pick in the draft. So they're bad. And it sounds like they have a bad coach and a bad ownership. And so hopefully she's put in some good position to have a chance.
She was highly coveted before the college recruits happened. So she was recruited by a lot of the top women's teams, UConn, I believe, like Tennessee, those big college names. And she chose to stay home because I believe she's from Iowa or in that area, and she wanted to stay home. So I think that she's not one of those people that's like showy or flashy or whatever. Her game is second to none, but she seems like a very down to earth, humble.
She talks
kind of person.
She is.
She definitely. But I think she pushes back though. I think she's not going to. She doesn't allow herself to be pushed around. Like, I don't know if she's an aggressor, but she stands up for herself, I would say.
No, and when you watch her press conferences, she's pretty. I mean, humble's not the word. She seems pretty real. She's like, this is how it is. And right now, I am why people are watching basketball. So tough luck. And I'm a white girl. And so if people,
right, how good you are, right? When you're good, you know how good you are.
Exactly.
Yes.
If you're going into the league and people are calling you a white B word, and you're like, well, this, and I think our quote was something like, this white B word is why you're on the map. And it's like, that's true. That's actually like factually true. And you can see it in the numbers. Again, is double the amount of people watching her games, at least double.
Do you think maybe we can, before we segue into the other one, I've thought about this, and you've done sports and you've covered a lot of things. Do you think there's something to say about the sound of a player's name that helps their reputation? Because Caitlin Clark kind of has a sound to it.
Great sound.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
what if she didn't have that name? I don't know. I've thought about this with other players before. Like some players, they just have a name to them that works. Yeah. Would she be as much of a sensation or a what would you call it? Like a must see sort of talent without that name? I don't know. I think there's something to be said.
That is a great question.
Think about it this way.
We could talk about. You don't get me down the sports road, which you've already gone down. But I mean, that's a great question. I think absolutely not. And I think the perfect example. I think no. I think she would not be as big if she was not named. I think the name. I think you're on the right track. The name actually does. Sorry, the name does matter, and I can tell you why. Because Nikola Jokic is a 3-time MVP. He should be 4-time. He should have been 4 in a row. No question. Like, his stats are the best in the league in the regular season. Unquestionably, everybody agrees. That's just how it is. He is the best player in basketball pretty easily, actually. And he's not that popular. Like most people don't Nikola Jokic. People just don't know because his name. He sounds like a Middle Eastern, middle European guy who people just don't. Yeah, they don't really know. And that's a perfect example. If he was, let's just say, not even a black guy, let's say a white guy whose name was James Johnson, he would be better known, or Michael Jordan. I mean, I think it's just
right.
it's
I mean,
a name that's like, wow, that works. Yeah.
If you're calling the game live on air and there's a big three to as the buzzer expires, just screaming with that microphone, Caitlyn Clark for 3 rolls off the tongue.
Oh, it's so true.
And
I that was Matt. You're in my ballpark right now. I mean, and I did do that. I was
no pun intended.
I was a sports commentator. This is what I've done. I still do it every now and then, but it's so true. And when you have to do, especially when you're doing these European sports, I've done it here in Munich, and you get these guys from Russia and stuff, and it's like, and it's make collection for 3. Yeah. And it's like, oh boy,
Messi just kind of rolls off. It just flows off.
Ronaldo too, and I think some of these guys probably even change their names, or they go with just their first names. I mean, there's a reason for that, because it's a funny thing, I think, in sports that it is. It's like a stage name, and actually, so and you have to be good anyway, obviously. But if you want to be really good, then you need to get opportunity, and if you want opportunity, oftentimes that the coaches are swayed by the fans and by how beloved are you. Matt, we're back in the days of the gladiators. If you want your favorite gladiator out there, you're pounding on the deck saying, what's that? I'm trying to think of the guy from the Gladiator. What's his name?
I couldn't help you there.
I
know the
everyone knows the scene. I can't think of the guy's name. But if you have a name that kind of rolls off the tongue and they're going, pounding the table and saying, "Bring out this guy," it's the same. And if you have that recognition, then the coach is going to put them out there. And so I think it's absolutely true, and it's a really interesting point in the psychology of sports. Most of it's talent, but not all of it. Some of it is luck. Some of it is choices. Who do you go to play with? What do you literally call yourself, or what are you called? That's a really, really bizarre point that is absolutely, I think, 100% true. Really interesting point. And see, that's why. See, Matt, this is exactly part of why I love sports. It's the psychology.
The psychology of sports.
Man, it's these little things. I mean, we have the European Championship coming up, and you have Scotland versus Germany, and it's like I was just telling my wife, it's like, who am I going to root for? I live in Germany for 8 years, but I don't really like Germany. Their team is always political. They're a bunch of, not all of them. I'm sure some of the guys are fine. They're not a problem, but they have to put up with this. They have rainbow flags on their arms, and they're saying "Go Ukraine." It's like, well, that's, if Scotland comes out there, just bunch of white guys. I mean,
just.
They're not going to win.
How much the sport though is just really so large. I mean, one of my cousins, she had a really, really, really good friend who I knew just from being friends with my cousin, who was born and raised in Argentina. And so when she came here to the U.S., even as I think a teenager, maybe, the World Cup was taking place and all of that, and just like she found herself in that kind of situation where, like, I have to root for Argentina. I mean, they were I believe, I'm not really well versed in this, but I believe they were a powerhouse in the World Cup. But she just found herself in that position where, like, you start to think like, who do I root for now? Like, I love America. They were very patriotic. Her family was they instilled in their children, like, we moved to America for opportunities, be proud of your country, love your country. So they instilled that patriotism in her. And it was pretty neat to kind of see people who experience that kind of change in life events and all of that get to root for different teams. And I don't know, it's fun. I don't really like soccer at all.
I get it.
I think it's very boring and like. Yeah, but that's I'm in the minority.
I've watched games. No, I'm with you, and I live here. But sometimes I can really get into it. Like, again, like the European Championship. But I've watched games. I've watched games with friends of mine, and it ends up being 0-0. And I'm just like, what the, what? But my friends are like, that was such a great game.
And nothing happened.
Great, exciting
2 hours.
game. I'm like, dude, nobody even scored. What are you even talking about? No, it's absolutely no. But I think that's a good point to move on to the next. Not as good of a segue, but still, I think a good moment to move on to the next point, and that is, going kind of into politics again. Yeah, we're probably going to talk about politics, guys, for the coming weeks, because, well, pretty soon Trump's going to announce a VP. I think that's coming up soon. I think it's going to be
from what I've read, I think Marco Rubio.
That's what I think too.
Is
I'm not
the name, Little Marco. Now
not
Trump
a fan.
tore him apart for months on end. I don't know. He's very much Warhawk. He's man. I remember when him and Rand Paul, Marco Rubio and Rand Paul, were going at one another at the debate back then, and I thought Rand Paul was on point. I don't know. I think, but they're looking at demographics. But I don't know. I think Trump is actually really, without Marco Rubio, is doing pretty well with Hispanics and any sort of minority group. I think he's doing well with them. I don't know if he needs any boost, but hey,
Dad,
whatever.
Man, if he does Rand Paul, then I will move to America tomorrow.
You're moving back. It's not going to be Rand Paul.
It's not going to be Rand Paul.
Imagine if we had a Ron Paul presidency.
Oh,
I thought Ron Paul was very good.
Country roads.
Rand Paul is good too, but I thought Ron Paul was really on point.
Oh man,
he was the only.
They got the Federal Reserve. Yeah.
If you go to YouTube, type in Ron Paul debate Israel. He was the only Republican on that entire stage of Newt Gingrich and whoever else at the time, Mike Huckabee, who said that America needs to stop supporting Israel. They can defend themselves. They need to be left alone. They need to stand up for their own selves, and we need to stop getting involved in defending them and backing. He was right, and by far the only Republican to say that.
Wow.
So he was good. Yeah,
he rocks.
He was good.
He rocks. Yeah.
So one thing here, Kev, we'll jump into this. Speaking of Caitlyn Clark and all those demographics there, I found this study by Pew Research, and I yeah, pew. What does that mean? You have to sit in a pew
I'm not sure.
Poll you? I don't know. But so I don't know. People are all right. Anyway, let me just get to the point here before I try to analyze too deeply. So these are public views on gender binary choices and all of that based on generation. So the percent of people by generation who say that there are only two genders. Now they have 2 years here, 2021 and 2023, because there is a shift. And this is what's crazy to me. So in 2021, I'll go through the years first. So 3 years ago, Generation Z, which is what, 98 on or so, 97 on, 43% of them say there are only two genders. Well, even just how I let that thought sit for a minute, only 43% of Generation Z say there are only two genders. Now, it doesn't get that much better with millennials, which is 85, I think, to 97-ish. Only 51%, so half, 51% of millennials say there are only two genders. Generation X, so those 60s and 70s babies, 65% say there are only two genders. The baby boom, so that's what, 45 to 65 or so, only 62% say there are only two genders. And the silent generation, so 40s and 50s, 68%, so a little bit higher there, but still those are numbers that I found a bit eye-opening, because not one generation, even going back to the 1940s, hit 70% of them that say there are only two genders. Now the thing that
sorry,
there's a shift, but go ahead.
I just want to qualify real quickly, because I really wonder where they perform these.
Oh, in the pew.
Yeah, where are these polls coming from? In the pew, exactly. So I mean, I assume they must be online, right? I assume they're in online. I don't know that, but that's what I'd be curious. Like, where did they do this? Because I think a lot of these polls are swayed because you're literally taking the poll on the internet, and people who actually exist on the internet think differently from those who don't. And so people who are the greatest generation, the silent generation, they're going to be, less on the internet. So if you're only polling, your 90-year-olds who are using the internet, you're going to get about 10 of them, and you're going to have about 100. You know what I mean? Yeah, exactly. So because exactly, they're going to be more woke. You're going to be more quote unquote up to date, et cetera. And that's going to be with every single generation. So these types of polls, I always immediately, I'm like, yeah, nah, I mean, they're always swayed because the people taking them are going to be the ones who are just immediately going to be more swayed towards modern quote unquote values.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with that. Of course, it's dependent on who they're actually looking at, but the shift is pretty real here. And again, I guess the numbers are kind of difficult to analyze because you're right. Who are you polling here? You can get two different results because you ask two different times. So the validity, who knows? But there's a jump. So from 2021 to 2023, if we look at Generation Z, so in 2021, as I said, 43% of them said there were only two genders. In 2023, so 2 years after the fact, 57%. So almost a 20%, 15% jump.
Wow.
Say there are only two genders. Millennials have gone up from 51% in 21 to 60% in 23. Generation X has gone up from 65% to 71%. And the baby boom and silent generation have both gone up, and only by a few points there. But I just, when I looked at this, I thought to myself, how the people that grew up in that era of the 40s, 50s, and 60s, there's still 30 to 40% of them who think that there are more than two genders. And even a little bit deeper here, overall, this is here from September 2017. Can you be a different gender from what you were assigned at birth? About 45% of Americans said yes, you can be. In April of 2024, only 34% of Americans said yes, you can be a different gender from what you were assigned at birth. The question is your gender determined by your sex assigned at birth? In 2017, 53% of Americans said yes, your gender is determined by the sex you're assigned at birth. In April 24, 65% of Americans say your gender is determined by your sex assigned at birth. Now, among parties, it's much different. So here's the last point I'll leave you with stat-wise. Is your gender determined by your sex assigned at birth? Are you ready for this? 91% of Republicans say yes, your gender is determined by sex assigned at birth. Among Democrats, only 39% say your gender is determined by sex at birth. 91% Republicans, 39% Democrats. This is Pew Research, April 14th, 2024. What a massive gap. 39 to 91.
I just wonder how do they do these tests? Someone in the comments, please let us know. I seriously, I literally don't know. I mean, is it online?
Polling is fascinating.
Yeah. How do you poll? I mean, are you going to the grocery store and asking these questions directly?
I've never been polled.
I haven't either. So are you asking this person like these questions, like exactly as they stated them here? Or do you have a girl with a nose ring going, so I was born, if you're born a man and I say I'm a woman, are you saying I'm not a man? You know what I mean? So it could be swayed by how you're being tested. I literally don't know how that works.
It would always get me though when they would poll 200 people and then the actual election is 700,000 people and the percentages sort of match a lot. That always, maybe it's because of the elections are fake. Maybe it's predetermined.
I think polling,
but it's odd. Polling is very odd.
Statistics are always fake.
Yes, you can manipulate. Yes, statistics are always
100% of statistics are false. You can quote me on that one, guys. Quote me on that one. But it's actually, I think it's actually true because you can always sway statistics. Always, you can always find some way to balance it the way you want it to go. Always.
A class that I took was, I don't know if you know the store name. She was a head marketing strategist for JCPenney's. Do you know the store? I don't know if that's okay.
Yeah.
So she came in, this woman, she came in to speak to us, and she was a head marketing strategist, and she was a certified mathematician. Her whole thing was numbers and data and stats. That was how she ran this. She was a big name at the corporation. She told us, and I will remember this forever, is that you can skew stats any way you'd like. Yeah. And she did a presentation on this, and she did it so like she posed a certain question and got numbers, but then the way you play with like standard deviation, the range, the median, you could actually manipulate these numbers to give an outcome that you want. And it's a fascinating math. But she was like, marketing companies do that. So when you hear these, these like Verizon or whatever, they put out these numbers, 81%, 79%, 80%. Exactly. It's all geared to
well,
they can make any number.
You just always add parameters. You always add a parameter. So if you plug in the numbers and they don't work for you, then Okay, so let's just say white male single, and you plug it in. Oh, nope, that doesn't work. White male single bald. No, white male
Yeah,
single
that doesn't do
bald
it.
with a
Yeah.
dog. Oh,
Oh,
okay,
maybe.
all right. We're getting close. So
I could
it
taste
literally,
it.
but that's the thing, and that's why our world is so dumb that we see something and someone says this is what it is and I'm Walter Cronkite and this is the truth.
That's
It's like,
yeah, yeah,
no,
yeah, yeah.
it's actually not. That is someone's version of the truth. Why can people not understand this? I've watched a couple of videos lately and I can't recommend them because there's language in them and it's yeah, but there's a really interesting podcast on Tucker Carlson. He interviewed
Mm,
a guy named Tim Dillon, and again, it's I'm not, I can't say anyone should watch it. Definitely not with kids. There's definitely language and stuff, but it's really interesting because this guy Tim Dillon is he's a comedian, but he's done a lot of research on the generations and especially the baby boomers, and
sure.
it's fascinating because he really digs in deep to what happened to them, why they are what they are, and part of it is because they buy into everything. They like if you pitch them something, they love it. He's like,
I believe it.
my dad would watch Burger King commercials and he would cry. And he's like, just imagine that. Like they're buying so much into marketing that they like commercials actually made them emotional. And like they actually buy into things. They watch them on TV and they're like, yeah, that's what I
Yeah. Yeah.
but it's so absolutely true. And they would buy into things because somebody said it, or this guy said it, or Walter Cronkite said it, or whatever. And so that was the truth. It wasn't like, oh, that sounds a bit far-fetched. It was just
Yeah.
immediately, well, then that must be the case. Well, heck. And I think that we still have that today. Obviously, we saw that with COVID, but I think it's getting better. I think Gen Z actually, like this guy thinks too, that Gen Z is actually the one that might be figuring it out. Millennials are
Gen
slowly
Z.
figuring it out. That's like, okay, this is all a bunch of garbage.
Let me just see if I could, because I save these things and then I lose them. Somebody made a really interesting comment. Let me see if I could just pull it up really quick because it was about maybe here we go. Some of these things I don't want to read them out loud because they're a bit inappropriate.
Yeah, that's the problem with this stuff sometimes.
It's funny because boomers, as somebody said here, boomers claim that Generation Z is lost, but it's rather complicated. Instead, it's basically even split. Somebody had a really good comment about how we actually end up might being one of the more sane generations, Generation Z, because they're sort of pitted, and I'm not Generation Z, but they're sort of pitted on being so progressive and so liberal and so out there in a lot of their thoughts. But I think a lot of their ideas are actually pretty valid that I think stemmed from the greatest generation that wasn't so good. And I think
the
there's
greatest
something
generation
to say to that.
The boomers, you mean? Oh, wait. What do you mean?
No, I meant the greatest generation. Some of the things that actually was instilled. So a lot of in my mind, a lot of the principles of the Industrial Revolution carried into with the greatest generation. So that thought of like, I need to work 70, 80, 90 hours a week in order to, I think there's something to be said against that. I think we talked about this on the show before as well. Like the husband getting in the car and driving an hour away to go to work and not seeing his family is a fairly new thing in the history of the world, because men really worked on their farm, or they worked in the yard, they worked from their house, they worked upstairs making watches as a watchman, but they were always around their family. So the idea that the wife and the children don't see their husband for 8-9 hours a day, maybe an hour or so at night, and that's it, isn't really the history of the family. So I think there's a lot of that mindset of the greatest generation of the boomers that doesn't apply anymore today. People are making money online from their computers sitting at home, and I think that's a good thing. I don't think that's a bad thing.
Yeah, in that case, I mean, I think the computer is a whole different idea, but I do think that that's absolutely true. If you do have more time with your family, that is a plus, and that I definitely buy into. And I do think that we don't get outside enough. There's a lot of different issues that we have, but I think people are waking up. I think that unfortunately the generation after Gen Z, they're the ones that grew up their entire lives with a smartphone, and TikTok, and they're a bunch of probably the dumbest people ever. So I think the boomers up to this point might be the dumbest ever. I think Gen 8, what is it? I forget what it's called.
I forget now.
whatever, Gen Alpha, I think Alpha, something like that. And whatever they are, they're a problem. So I mean, I think that Gen Z and the millennials are going to have to really fix things, or we're going to be in trouble. And honestly, and I mean, all around the world, we're going to be even bigger trouble because we don't have babies anymore. And it's a whole nother topic. Maybe we'll talk about that next week. We're already about 50.
Elon Musk has a lot to say on that.
Yeah, he does. And it's a great point. For years, for decades, they said we're having overpopulation. But I even saw, I think it was CNN, maybe NBC. Somebody said something, even a little thing about actually it's not overpopulation, it's underpopulation that's going to be the issue. We're not going to replace the workers that we have now at a high enough level that the way we know life as it is going to crumble. And I think that's absolutely the case. And
a lot of talents are being lost. I saw a video of a woman. I didn't know they did this like this. She made lace, like a lace. I don't know. I'm just going to say vestments because it was coming to my head, lace vestments, whatever. Have you ever seen how that's done? It is absolutely mind-boggling. No, human hands have done that. Wow. So it's like 800 needles, literally, and then like 20 strings, and she mixes like she's tying shoes, and she puts the pins to kind of make the shape. It's unreal. Cool.
Hey, learn a trade like that, people. I tell you, learn a skill, and someday, I think it'll actually come in pretty big. I just saw, we got to end the show, but I just saw, this is actually really interesting. Maybe we'll even save this for next week. I should have thought about this, but Shaquille O'Neal spent, I think, something like 10 million or $1 million. I don't remember the amount on investing in the property, intellectual property. I know the properties of Elvis Presley, Marilyn Monroe, and somebody else. Anyway, not like I'm saying that's great. I don't think they're moral artists or whatever, but it's interesting because I think the idea I would imagine behind that is that he understands that these classical, the classic art, quote unquote classic, you see what I'm saying? The art of the quote unquote great days is going to come back. And I think that's an interesting case. I don't know if he's right, but it's an interesting thought. And I think I would much prefer to see lace, obviously. But Shaquille O'Neal is thinking Elvis and Marilyn Monroe. But it's the same idea, the same basic idea of, okay, what we have now, eventually, at some point, is going to end, and people are actually going to want that actual nostalgia, the actual talent, the talent of Elvis Presley. Like him or not, I don't like him. I'm not saying anything good about him, but he did have actual talent. Yeah. And that's something that we just don't really have, exactly as you said. And so again, back to the original, that's why I do appreciate, and I think you appreciate someone like Caitlyn Clark, who does seem to have natural talent that is not boosted by testosterone. So yes, YouTube, if you heard us through this, please don't kick us off. But everyone, if they do, I guess you can find us over on, what was the one I don't even remember. There's a website where it automatically loads all of our podcasts. I honestly don't even remember what it's called. Olympic or something like that.
Oh, I don't even know.
I don't even remember. It's probably logged off at this point. But Rumble has some of our videos as well. They're supposed to upload them automatically. I think hopefully we'll stay on YouTube. I don't like YouTube, but they're the best. Best for what we can do. Please like, share, subscribe, comment, all that stuff. Let us know what you think. Let us know what you think. If you're paying attention to Caitlyn Clark or sports, or hey, maybe you hate sports. At least this time we didn't get too political. We didn't bash on any of our Twitter buddies, so we won't get too many nasty comments. Probably not. You never know. Next week, we'll go back into something controversial next week to make it more spicy. But until then, Matt, as always, I appreciate it. I guess we will see you next Monday. Everybody, have a fantastic week.